Welcome to this IQNet webinar on the revised Social Responsibility Management System Specification SR10 2024 version. Today, we aim to present the rationality behind the specification itself and the reasoning behind the revision. We will also describe in detail the backbone of SR10 2024 version, diving into the principles, the approach, the requirements, and the positioning of this management system specification. And finally, we will focus on the certification process with, I believe, information which is of relevance for different stakeholders, such as if you are an auditor, a consultant, an interested organization, an already certified organization, or a business partner. This said, please allow me to present the agenda. We will start the presentations with the why, the need for a revision, process, and objectives. And the presenter will be Mario Calderon, who is the chairman of the Standing Committee for Marketing and Development of IQNet Association. Then we'll progress with the what is the content, what are the changes, and I'll be responsible for that. And finally, we'll end the webinar with an interesting presentation and an relevant presentation on the how. What are the transition expectations for applicants, certified clients, auditors, and partners or licensed certification bodies? And this will be the responsibility of Tatiana Grosskauser. She is the Business Development Manager of IQNet Association, and of Christina Baniai. She's the Technical Operation Manager of IQNet Limited. I wish all of you a wonderful webinar, and that may all your expectations are fulfilled. Mario Calderon Fernandez, he has a degree in environmental science and a diploma in advanced studies in chemical engineers. And in the last 25 years, Mario has been combining professional activities in standardization and certification, and also being a teacher at university. Nowadays, Mario is a key account manager in INO, the largest certification body in Spain and one of the largest in the world, and a part-time professor at Rei Juan Carlos and Autónoma de Madrid universities, both in the Madrid region, where he teaches environmental impact assessment and management systems. Mario is passionate about mountains and
small ones,
but also the ones when he has the chance in Switzerland, coming to visit the IQNet head office, and he visits us as the vice president of IQNet, and he also holds the chair of the Standing Committee Marketing Development of the association, and a formal INOR's delegate to IQNet. Welcome, Mario, and we are looking forward to understand the why behind SR10.
Thank you so much, Pedro, and I hope you enjoy this presentation. Okay, let's talk about the why of this new version of the SR10 specification, the one we launched it just in some weeks ago. As you know, let me see if I can. Okay. As you know, the current or the former version of the SR10 was released already 10 years ago in 2015. So the time to be reviewed has arrived. You are familiar with international standards and how they perform and how they are reviewed. For instance, now ISO 19001, which was released also in 2015, is going to be reviewed now. It started the revision process after 10 years. So we did a very similar approach in the case of the SR10. However, I would say that the main reason of this change is that all the things that has been moving around and has been changing around our lives. Okay, we have assisted to a very high increase in the globalization in the last 10 years. Now we know that this globalization is put into some doubts, and there is an increase of nationalism worldwide. But however, it is true that the supply chain has been expanded dramatically in the last year. We have the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals now, which is they are a reality. They used to be like a supporting actor in the past. Now they are a main character for many companies. So we have to take them into account. The Agenda 2030 also, of sure. The ESG concept has dramatically changed in the last year. We had a lot of experience, a lot of tools mainly related to environmental sustainability, but in the last year we have seen an increase in the number of initiatives related to the social part, and particularly also related to the governance part within the companies. So the climate change, of course, is something which is already there and it is quite important from the ESG point of view. In the light of this new initiative, of the changes, there have been new initiatives, new standards, new models that we will be talking about that. But I will say the main concern for this revision of the specification is because the world changes quite fast. There are new paradigms in citizens, in consumers, and in business. And let me give you some examples of what is going on in our world. I don't know if you are familiar with the Edelman Trust Barometer. The Edelman Foundation is a foundation have been 25 years making asking in many countries about how the perception of trust in different countries. For instance, this report, 2025 report, was prepared with I think more than 30,000 people worldwide, and these are the result of how the people in the world, particularly in advanced countries, but in many other countries also, how they perceive how businesses and governments are doing. Okay, if we see this picture here, we can see that we can see that that there is in the last 5 years there is an increased perception in the people in general that businesses are working in a more ethical way. It's like 20 points increase, 25% more increase in the last 5 years. And so they are doing things in a more ethical way, and they are quite competent, more or less, to carry out the work they are doing. Okay, if you see the government seems to be much less competent and much less ethical than businesses. And we have NGO that, of course, they are seen as very ethical, but not so far from business. You can see that. Okay, and they are more or less competent to carry out their work, but not as much as companies and business do. If we see that, they say, okay, business seems to be performing well in terms of perception of ethical behavior worldwide. But although we can say that at the beginning it seems that we are doing right, there is something behind which are very important. Okay, and there is what I would like to say like a silent enemy. It is really a silent enemy which is increasing its strength very rapidly, and it is called the grievance in English. Okay, which is the perception of injustice in the people. And the citizens perceive the unfairness of business, the unfairness of government. And if we see how people with this sense of grievance perceive the business, the picture is completely different. Let me show you. These pictures show how the people with this perception of grievance, sorry for my English pronunciation, they perceive business. And you will see that we change dramatically. People with the sense of grievance believe that businesses, they do not work in an ethical way. And they perceive that they are much less competent to carry out their work that the average worldwide. Okay, we may say, if we see this picture here, we may say, okay, I can understand the people that they are feeling this grievance feeling. They perceive the business as unethical. But the question is how many people have this perception of grievance, because it can be a small problem, just a very few people have this grievance perception, or it can be a big problem if there is a lot of people worldwide that has this grievance perception. And the truth is that there are many, many people, and an increasing number of people that have this sense of grievance. In fact, 6 out of 10 of the people worldwide, they have a moderate or high grievance perception. So they perceive that the business and government, they just are serving for a few people, not for the globalization, but for just a few people, that they perceive that the business are hurting me and the government are hurting me because their action hurt me as a citizens, and they perceive that the systems do only favor the rich and the richer, okay, and they are becoming richer and richer. This is quite important because the perception of unfairness is becoming more and more an issue. In fact, this Edelman Trust Barometer has named this 2025 report as the year of the grievance crisis. So we really have to act. Okay, this has something to do also with the perception about the future. And it is particularly worrying in the most advanced countries, in the most advanced economies. You can see only 36% of the people worldwide believes that the next generation, the younger people now, will live better than their parents. And if we see the figures of some countries like France, Germany, Japan, Netherlands, Italy, or even Spain, is more or less in the middle, they are very worrying. This is very worrying data. You can see that in France, only 9% of the people believe that they will live better than their parents. And this is something which is also quite important, because if we see the figures behind that, there are also some worrying figures. For instance, 40% of the people worldwide approve what it is called the hostile activism. That means that 25% of the people believe that attacking people online or spreading disinformation in an intentional way, or commit direct violence towards the people or towards the public or private property, they are nice ways of provoking a change. That means that 40% of the people, they approve this hostile activism. And if we go to the younger people between 18 and 34, the young adults, more than 50% of them, they do approve this kind of violence, this kind of hostile activism. So, of course, this is something we have to worry about. And something important also to say is that the people with higher grievance mechanism, grievance sense, they are demanding a higher action from companies, from businesses. Okay, so they demand a higher effort in terms of affordability, a higher effort in climate change by the businesses, in retraining people, employees, in controlling the misinformation, or in making more against the discrimination because of sex, because of age, because of gender, etc., etc. So it is clear that if we want to increase the trust in businesses, we need to do something. The recipes are here. Grievances must be addressed. This is clear. There is a failure, general failure, institutional failure in the last decades that have to be addressed. Businesses has to act and have to change the way they behave in the market. This is clear. They cannot act alone. The businesses need the help of the governments, the help of the NGOs, and they need, of course, tools to be able to work in a more ethical way and to show the ethical behavior to the world, because we trust optimism overpowers grievance. This is the one of the target we want to achieve. We have to increase trust by, amongst many other options, of course, by giving business tools to deal with social responsibility. And this is why we are here. That's why we launched SR10 10 years ago, and that's why we are here now to present you the new version of the SR10. The SR10 has been and must be a tool to help companies to listen to their stakeholders, to understand their needs, to understand their expectation, and to provide those companies with a management model, a comprehensive management model that can help them to address social responsibility-related issues in a global way, enable fair growth and increasing trust. So we have a tool here, which is the SR10, that is really thought and prepared to allow those companies to handle those social responsibility related issues in a structured way, taking account the materialism, to control their performance in terms of social responsibility, and to be able to communicate also to the market all the goals that they are achieving and they're going to achieve. Although we have to take into account, this is something clear, that companies are here to gain, to earn money and to keep the employment of their employees. Okay, so that's why we have the SR10 in place. Of course, we have some additional objectives, and now they seem to be very small compared to these large objectives. We try to help companies to work in a more trustable way. When we approach and we face this revision process, we have some other objectives in mind. For sure, is to fully align the model with the high-level structure that all the management systems which are published by ISO have. So we align fully. We have aligned fully. Pedro will be talking about that afterwards. We have fully aligned the standard, the specification with the ISO high-level structure. And of course, to align it with other initiatives like UN SDGs, I mentioned it before, the guiding principle of business and human rights of the United Nations, some other initiatives that have been launched in the last year, like the PAS 24,000 on social management systems, and in general, to bring it closer to the ISO Guide 82, which is guidelines for addressing sustainability in standards. And additionally, as a part of this revision process, we didn't only review its standard, the specification itself, but we also review the rule book, which is the internal rules the members of IQNet use to be able to, for instance, calculate the audit days to be carried out or performed in a client, or in which it is stated, for instance, the rules that an auditor must follow to be able to be considered or to be qualified as an SR10 audit according to IQNet rules. Okay, how was the process to review the specification? We have been working. First of all, I have to tell you, we have been working for more than a year in a special task group, which is called the IQNet Social Compliance Technical Advisory Group, the SS TAC. We started formally in March 2023 the revision process. We of course took advantage of all the experience that all the members of IQNet, those more than 20 members that are now currently certifying according to this specification, of the experience gained in multiple companies, with multiple size, in multiple sectors, and of course in multiple countries. So that have given us a lot of information, a lot of knowledge that have been essential also to address this change of the specification. We have been reporting, just for your knowledge, we've been reporting to IQNet Standing Committee Marketing and Development. The committee I have I'm leading, as Pedro mentioned before, and also to the ESG panel that was created also in IQNet to deal with ESG related issues. Okay. Something important is that when we finish internally, we prepare the draft of the specification. We launched a public consultation last summer in July. Remember, I think it was in July 2024, worldwide, to be able to receive any comment coming from any stakeholder, any person worldwide willing to provide us with those comments or suggestions of changes, etc. And they were dealt with in this social compliance technical advisory group. Okay, what we have clear since the very beginning is that there are some things that we must have into account when reviewing the specification. This full alignment with the ISO high-level structure and ISO Guide 82. We noticed that we had to update references because, for instance, all the risk-based standards like ISO 31000, all the governance issue that has increased a lot their presence in the market in the last year, like ISO 37001 as an anti-bribery management system and many others. The concept of materiality, of material issues, we wanted to help companies to better understand how this double materiality should be addressed within the framework of a social responsibility management system. We had clear the need of include a grievance mechanism within the specification and to apply companies certified according to SR10 to have a grievance mechanism internally. And it is nice because the report, the Edelman report I show you was published, I think 10 days ago. But you can see that more than 1 year ago, we had very clear in our mind that we should include a grievance mechanism in the SR10. Of course, the risk-based thinking approach, which is common now in management system standard within ISO, the precautionary approach in case of irreversible damage to the environment or humans, the climate change issue, following also the recommendation made by ISO. I know you're familiar, but ISO published last year an amendment for all management system standard in which it is mandatory for all companies to determine whether the climate change is a relevant issue, no matter it is 9,000, 14,000, 45,001. And of course, we want to also to include this clause in SR10 about the climate change consideration. Additionally, we wanted, of course, to address United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and we have produced a very nice annex that addressed how SR10 is dealing with the different United Nations SDGs. So I recommend you to read it because it's quite nice to have also. We want to further promote transparency, the consideration of stakeholders' interest and ethical in the management system in the companies, to include a clear reference to governance, this G of the ESG, which is becoming more and more an issue in all companies, and is something that is clearly a point in all the agendas for companies, particularly the largest ones. And also consider new forms of, for instance, slavery, modern slavery, the consideration of diversity and inclusion to avoid any discrimination within the companies. And we also wanted to, by reviewing our experience in the last 10 years, to review audit duration, including possible reduction. We will talk also about that afterwards. Sampling rules and mandatory interviews for stakeholders within the certification process. As I mentioned, we did a consultation process globally and public last summer, 2024. Last summer, sorry, in the Northern Hemisphere in July 2024, and we also to help people to create or to send those comments. We produced a specific paper for this public consultation, explaining the changes, why of the revisions, which are the main differences with the former version, etc., etc. As I mentioned before, all the comments, every single comment received during this consultation process was considered by the technical advisory group in charge of reviewing the specification. The result is this one, the one we are presenting today. And I have to say that particularly myself, I'm quite happy with the revision. I hope you really appreciate the effort that has been made in changing the specification, in updating the specification, and making it available, of course, freely available for you all within the IQNet network. In my view, the ESR10 has reinforced its position as a path towards real sustainable development within companies, within organizations. ISO 10, in my view, is a unique specification that clearly differentiates itself from other social responsibility standards as initiative. They all have their place in the market, but I think that probably ISO 10 is the most comprehensive one, absolutely aligned with ISO 26000. And something important is that through its certifiability, this comprehensive set of sustainability-focused requirements, the wide range of stakeholders covered, and versatility in being applied and integrated in the organizational system of all types and size, we have something different in the market. As I mentioned before, in my view, we have the most, we are in front of the, for me, most comprehensive, reliable international tool to manage all social responsibility related aspects. We have the knowledge of all the IQNet members and IQNet head office. We have the support and the reputation of IQNet itself and its members, of course, which is, in my view, the largest and more trusted certification association in the world. However, the success of this specification relies on you, relies on the market, relies on our customers, on the companies, on the organization that adopt this model, on the consultants that helps companies to implement the model, and of course of the market and the stakeholders that are the ones that have to give credibility of this specification. Nothing more to say. I really appreciate your time. Pedro Alves is the Managing Director and IQNet, the International Certification Network. He is IQNet delegate to IIF, the International Accreditation Forum, and also in ISO, the International Organization for Standardization, including many technical committees dealing with, particularly with the development of management system and conformity assessment standard. Also, I think you are working also in CASCO and so many others. He is responsible for technical work of various panel and technical advisory group, including this ESG group I mentioned before, social and compliance, TAC, and IT panel also within IQNet. And he has a very long history. He's not so old, I have to tell you, first of all, but he has a very long trajectory mainly focus on testing, inspection, and certification, very much linked to social responsibility in activities, including roles of CEO, auditor, decision maker, and training for IQNet Limited auditor and some other IQNet member for more than 15 years. And above all, I have to say, is a very good friend of mine.
Thank you so much for your comprehensive and interesting presentation, launching the discussion on the SR10 2024, notably on the why we started this project of revising the specification, and it's very comprehensive, and I have to say I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much. And now it's my turn to try and follow up and fill the shoes of Mario here in front of you with the what. What is the content? What are the changes that we introduced in the specification? I agree with Mario. I think we all agree that SR10 is a unique management system specification. It's as Mario said, evolving. It was developed before 2015. It started in Spain, and then it was adopted internationally through IQNet. The first main revision publication was in 2015, and as Mario said, it took us almost 10 years to update it. First of all, because it was a very good specification from the start. We'll see that we started to talk about ESG long before it had a place in everybody's mind, in everybody's mouth. We've talked about it for more than 10 years. We talked about governance, as Mario said, for a long time. We just needed to highlight those things. And as Mario said, we believe that SR10 allows organizations to include social responsibility in their corporate management and in their corporate strategy. Social responsibility in the wide sense. We'll look into that. We are in line with the most state of the art definitions of social responsibility, for instance, from UNIDO. It's more than just focusing on employees. It's more than just focusing on the social dimension. Okay, through SR10 from the beginning, we tried to address a wider set of stakeholders. Okay, from employees, obviously, but also for other internal stakeholders like the shareholders or the owners, and to a diverse set of external stakeholders, including the environment, including the society and the community. We'll discuss that in just a moment. So a wide set of stakeholders. And then allowing the company and the organization to tailor the management system according to the relevant stakeholders they identify and according to the relevant aspects, social responsibility aspects and issues they identify. So we allow some kind of tailor. The companies can tailor their management system. The system is flexible to accommodate all organizations, as Mario said, from all sizes, all natures, all types of business or sectors. It's flexible enough to accommodate their specific nature, their specific context, their specific structure, their specific location, etc., etc. It incorporates, as Mario said, the state of the art in terms of international guidance for social responsibility and for sustainable development. Started with ISO 26000. That was the beginning, a full alignment with ISO 26000. Then we incorporated the alignment with UN SDGs, the Social Development Goals. More recently, the ISO Guide 82, which is the ISO guidance for the standard developers when they want to address sustainability issues. We also follow that in the revision. As you may know, ISO published very recently during COP29 the ISO IWA 48 as the framework for sustainability. When it was published, we were already in the final stage of the revision of SR10. Still, we could do a match. We could do an analysis of how good we were in line with the IWA 48, and I'm happy to say that we were very happy with the outcome of that analysis. And finally, new standards as well, focusing on people like PAS 24000 and new schemes like FSSC 24000 scheme that we are in line with. As Mario also talked about the alignment with ISO 1XXL, the high-level structure, in order to allow integration of the social responsibility management system within the global management system of the organizations. And Mario also talked that we took in consideration the more recent developments in the market regarding non-financial reporting. And we are happy also to say that although we had already a good platform for that to support non-financial reporting for the certified companies, we managed to improve on that by supporting an improvement dynamic cycle within the organizations for management, measurement, and reporting of organization performance. And on this, I really believe, and we really believe, that SR10 is a right tool for responsible management and to achieve better performance regarding SR10, regarding social responsibility aspects. We are supported in the right principles. We'll talk about that. So we believe that by supporting those principles and adopting those principles and adopting requirements in align with those principles, sustainability principles, we are giving an effective contribution, and companies, certified companies, can give an effective contribution. Like I said, focusing on non-financial reporting, we managed to establish and consolidate, to be more precise, a corporate performance dashboard to support that financial reporting, not just giving the picture that a non-financial report does, but providing the ability for the companies to establish their own film regarding performance. We believe we have a content which is reliable and comparable. We address different stakeholders' needs. We care for a wide set of stakeholders' needs. I'll talk about that in just a moment, and as Mario said. The baseline is still, like any other management system, contractual and legal compliance. And we address contractual and legal compliance with criteria which are suitable for auditing and also for reporting. The SR10 specification supports a certification scheme owned by the IQNet Association. And the certification scheme provides the certified companies with independent and recognized assessment that can boost their market trust for those organizations. They can better show their efforts regarding towards sustainable development. Again, a long-term perspective, not just a picture, a long-term perspective through improvement cycles to consolidated risk management and focusing on something that you will, I'm sure, already aware, and most of you will hear about quite often in the future, opportunity-based thinking, because this is a terminology that is being now promoted by the revision of ISO 9001, and we already had it. We already had it for a long time in SR10. Finally, we believe that SR10 can be a framework for corporate social responsibility, and if we look at UNIDO definition, because we integrate social and environmental concerns in business operations and in the interactions with the stakeholders. We believe that according to this definition, SR10 is fully supporting the corporate social responsibility of organizations. Mario also said that our uniqueness, we are unique because we are positioned in a different place within the conformity assessment world. The framework on the left, it's on purpose not completely visible because I don't want to particularly spend too much time on it. It's a framework, and I mentioned the copyright by Robert Marshall, 2024, and this framework is circulated for within several ISO technical committees to represent the relation between management system standards, the ones that we all know, from 9001 to ISO 20000 to ISO 2101 to ISO 37001 on anti-bribery. The relation between those management system standards, ISO management system standards that everybody knows, traditional or innovative or new, with the SDGs, the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And this is important because every management system has a contribution, that's for sure. And that's why we also try to figure out our own contribution. But we are positioned differently from these management systems. And then we have social responsibility management system schemes supported by the appropriate specifications or standards like SA 8000 or FSSC 24000. Those are based in ILO conventions. They are based on the UN Charter for Human Rights and other UN conventions and other relevant international relevances. And also FSSC is based on PAS 24000 as establishing the criteria for addressing people within the social responsibility, SR10 is positioned in a different dimension, in a different place within this matrix of management systems and certification schemes. SR10 is also based on, obviously, on ILO and UN conventions, in PAS, as I said, in SDGs, but it's very much focusing on bringing ISO 26000 principles into practice and bringing and in alignment with IWA 48, as I mentioned before. And this purpose, looking into the wide set of stakeholders that we address, looking into the wide set of aspects, social responsibility aspects, in a more consolidated definition, positions us in a different place within this framework. Okay, IQNet supports FSSC 24000. IQNet works with SA 8000 as well, but we are positioned in a different perspective within the social responsibility TIC or certification panorama. We are focusing on sustainable development through social responsibility. This can also be seen through the expansion, so the enlargement that we did regarding the principles we support. The framework on the top right side of your screen, it's not also, it's the 26,000 framework. I don't want to waste too much time on that. I want to extract the principles of social responsibility promoted by ISO 26000. Accountability, transparency, ethical behavior, respect for stakeholders' interests, respect for the rule of law, respect for international norms of behavior, respect for human rights. All of these principles were clearly adopted and included in the framework of SR10. But since we are talking about a management system, ISO 26000 is not a management system, as you know, or certifiable management system. Since we are talking about a certifiable specification to support a certification scheme, we include some other principles related to the management system. Cross-disciplinary application. Social responsibility should be integrate with all the organization decision-making and actions. It should affect the whole structure and take into account all the different dimensions, the social, the economic, and the governmental dimension. Leadership. I'm not going to waste too much time with this principle. No management system can be effectively implemented and be successful without the support of the top management and the commitment and involvement of the top management. Stakeholder approach. You will see, if you don't already know, a very unique approach to stakeholders, a wide set of stakeholders. Voluntary basis, because it is a voluntary specification. It's publicly available, anybody can use it, and anybody can use it for voluntarily seek certification according to it or seek compliance, recognition of compliance. One important principle is additionality. Additionality. The organization should voluntarily incorporate the principles and the structure of the SR10's management system into their culture, into their practices, but going beyond what is legally required. It cannot be treated as an alternative to legal compliance. It cannot be used as a justification to ignore compliance. And furthermore, again, organizations should look beyond legal compliance when applying SR10. Efficiency. because all organizations, as Mario said, exist to be productive and to make money, efficiency on the basis of management, on the creation of added value for all stakeholders, to increase the possibilities and the opportunities for the organization to improve and be successful in the long term. And final, continual improvement. Again, I'm not spending too much time on this. Is a usual common principle for most management systems. The structure of the standard is based on the PDCA cycle. Okay, I'm pretty sure all of you are familiar with it. It sounds very familiar to all of you. It's nothing different from other management system. The only thing which is sufficiently important is that we apply the PDCA to social responsibility. SR10 allows you to implement improvement cycles to social responsibility. So this is a bit consolidating what Mario said, or building on what Mario said. Let's move into the approach. Stakeholders approach. Again, a very important part, a very fundamental part of SR10 that makes it a unique standard. SR10 identifies a wide set of stakeholders, as we said before. These 8 stakeholders: owners and shareholders, employees, consumers, users, and customers, suppliers, government, public authorities and regulatory bodies, community, society and social organizations, environment, and competitors. These are the stakeholders that we believe are common to most organizations. These are the stakeholders that we believe should be considered as minimum by organizations when addressing their needs, when addressing their requirements regarding social responsibility. And how is this implemented in practice? This is a very simple chart, but just to explain how companies and organizations should look into SR10 and use SR10. First of all, it's a requirement that the organization tries to understand itself, naturally, its contexts, and its applicable social responsibility obligations. This is the first step. Okay. Through this analysis, we also require the organizations to list their stakeholders. Take the minimum as considered in SR10, but going beyond, or even in a few cases duly justified, be able to exclude some of these stakeholders. For instance, a public organization seeking implementation regarding public entities seeking implementation regarding SR10, for them, competition may not be the most important issue. And for other organizations, for example, unions, may be a relevant stakeholder that needs to be considered. So the organization has to list their internal and external stakeholders based on their understanding their organization, their nature, their location, their products, their activities, their management, their purpose, their strategy, its context, and its applicable social responsibilities. And when this is done, the organization needs to characterize the relation with these stakeholders that are listed, identified, try to understand their requirements and needs and expectations. And this can only be done through bonding with them, connecting with them, communicating with them, engaging with them. And this is also a requirement from SR10, as we will see. Once this is done, the organization, based on a justified method and documented method, may identify which are the relevant stakeholders. Again, we don't expect exclusions, for most cases, exclusions from the minimum that we establish in the SR10. We do expect some to be added, but we don't expect many exclusions from those. We believe those are the ones that most organizations that are relevant for most organizations. But organizations have the possibility to look into all the lists, because, for instance, for employees, they may divide themselves in management, white collar, blue collar. They may divide suppliers in different classes. They may divide the society and the community in different types. But the organization is free to do that and free to identify from the entire list those who are relevant. SR10 gives some advice and some guidance on how to do this, how this method should be applied. The organization has to go into and see the obligations they have towards the stakeholders. If an organization has an obligation like a contractual obligation or a legal obligation towards a stakeholder, it will be very difficult it will be very strange for that stakeholder not to be relevant. It has to be identified the control and influence they have over the stakeholders. Need to identify how they interact with the stakeholders. Is it a punctual interaction? Is it a regular interaction? This is an emergency interaction, and this interaction may and should assist them into identifying the relevant ones. The organization has to look into dependent relations with stakeholders. If a stakeholder is dependent on an organization, that stakeholder by definition should be relevant, and vice versa. So, and then have to look into those stakeholders who represent other stakeholders. The unions represent employees. Employees represent families. Families represent the community, etc., etc., etc. They has to look into the representation, and this representation scope and the representation model and the representation framework may assist the organization in identifying the relevant stakeholders. This is what is required. And then for all the relevant stakeholders, the organization has to go further in what they did at the beginning, understanding the organization, the context, and applicable social responsibility obligation. They have to characterize all the applicable social responsibility aspects and issues for each stakeholder, taking in consideration what SR10 explicitly identifies, taking in consideration stakeholders' feedback, taking in consideration legal, contractual, and their own requirements. The organization may have policies, social responsibility linked policies, which identify social responsibility aspects that nobody else refers to. But this should be characterized. This social responsibility aspects should be characterized and then evaluated. Again, SR10 provides a guidance for this evaluation. The organization has to identify the relevant social responsibility aspects and issues, as well as related risks and opportunities, through, again, a justified and documented method, understanding the materiality, understanding the control and influence the company has, the organization has over every aspect, understanding the type of activities, the interconnection between the aspects, the type of stakeholders. For instance, an aspect, a social responsibility aspect related to a vulnerable stakeholder should be considered as relevant most of the times. Again, we don't expect that the aspects that we identify for each stakeholder in SR10, we don't expect them to be excluded. They can, under very specific and determined justification. We believe that those aspects are the ones that, if the stakeholder is considered relevant, those are the aspects that should be considered. The company is, again, has the obligation to add more, dependent on legal, contractual feedback, their own. So the company is, it's not able, it's obliged to add more to those minimum aspects that we identify in SR10. All of this done, finally, the organization can confirm the scope of the management system according to SR10 and start implementing it. Implementing the code of conduct, the policies, the objectives, defining the necessary documentation, launching, monitoring, evaluation, and improvement practices, which are fundamental for the management system to be comprehensively and systematically implemented. And after that, if it's their intention, they can search for certification. They can look out for certification according to the IQNet rules and the IQNet certification scheme. Again, for instance, if a company applying SR10, which is also or has also the need for any other certification, like for instance, PAS or FSSE 24000, SR10 framework provides a very good baseline for compliance with those schemes as well. This, as I said, are the aspects, the social responsibility aspects and issues that we from IQNet identified related to social responsibility and related to each one of the different stakeholders, and from owners and shareholders, from employees, customers, users, and consumers, suppliers, governmental and public organization and regulators, community and society, environmental and competitors. So these are the ones we believe are applicable in most cases. Again, the organization is able to add different aspects if they identify other relevant different aspects, and to exclude in very exceptional and justified and documented ways. Let's look at those in a different perspective. This is how it is presented by SR10. I wanted to give you a hint or an insight on how it looks from a distant perspective, like for example, for ESG perspective. And may I notice again that this is in place in SR10, the previous version of SR10 from 2015. We started talking about ESG long before this new movement, this big movement in the market. Maybe again, like Mario said, maybe we didn't focus on governance that much. Maybe we didn't call it ESG. Maybe we call it sustainable development, probably, but it was already there. The focus is the social. It's a social responsibility management system. Here you have the common aspects that are identified, for instance, again, by FSS, by PAS 24,000 or by SA 1000 and other schemes. The non-discrimination, the diversity and inclusion, the forced labor and child labor, addressing employee dignity, the health and safety, addressing work and life balance, the right to privacy, training and career development, supporting social responsibility principles in the supply chain, making an effort, exercising influence to promote social responsibility aspects, addressing social responsibility aspects and principles towards the suppliers and other organizations related to the organization. This is typical, this is common, okay? And it's now in line, it's now harmonized with other standards. But we did introduce some additional aspects, like the respect for heritage, culture, and the way of life, like the support for local recruitment. So these are very particular from SR10. Again, if we look at UNIDO definition of social responsibility, social and environmental aspects are since ever included in SR10, the prevention of pollution, efficient use of resources, conservation of ecosystems, respect for animal life. What we did in this revision was to highlight climate change, as Mario said as well, due to the recent amendments to the ISO management systems in two perspectives. For ISO management systems, what is relevant is the impact, evaluating the impact that the climate change has in the management system. What we are doing, we have that perspective as well, but we also have the other perspective, the impact materiality. What is the impact the organization has, the organization activities have in the climate change? So the other side. So the two-way is included in the social responsibility management system promoted by SR10. And then again, highlighting governance. It looks big, and it's a big part of it, because some of the things there, you already saw them in other management systems like anti-bribery or compliance management systems, as Mario talked about, organizational governance, honesty, confidentiality and privacy, fair competition, management effectiveness, informative transparency, voting rights. But then we added a few that you cannot see in other management systems. It's very particular for SR10, and that is also why SR10 is a unique specification. Promotion and advertising, the impact of promotion and advertising, the practice of promotion and advertising related to social responsibility, the execution of contracts, cooperation and transparency with the public entities, non-interference with public entities, complying with your tax obligations, and finally the commitment to promote and invest in the local development, the local community development. These are very unique, and we are very proud to have them included in SR10 since ever. It's not a new thing. Just for clarification, as Mario mentioned it as well, if we look into the SDGs, and IQNet has a comprehensive charter of contribution to SDGs. We identified some time ago, how do we contribute from IQNet Association? What are the activities? And SR10 is one of the owning SR10 and promoting SR10 certification is also one of the contributions we make to SDGs. And that because SR10 itself, the companies implementing SR10 can be sure that they are making a contribution to goal number 1, no poverty. Goal number 3, good health and well-being. Goal number 4, quality of education. Goal number 5, gender equality. Goal number 7, goal number 8, goal number 10, goal number 11, goal number 12, responsible consumption and production, and finally, goal number 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. To understand the contribution that implementing SR10 can have, it's necessary to go to, we have a specific annex in SR10 specification, and it's necessary to understand not just the goals and the definition of the goals, the SDGs goals, but also of the targets that are promoting those goals. That's the important part. Contribution to the goal has to be supported by a clear contribution to the targets, and that's why that's the support for this graphic. Still talking about the new version, I wanted structure. I wanted to address the requirements for the management system that are very specific, very particular for SR10. The social responsibility obligations, the need to systematically identify and update social responsibility obligations is the baseline for the whole process, the whole stakeholders approach. The support is the support for the whole stakeholders approach. The grievance mechanism, Mario did a fantastic job in explaining the importance of having a grievance mechanism, the importance of having a more comprehensive method and procedure to address not just complaints, but concerns and the feeling, the sense of injustice or unfairness from any stakeholder and how to act on those. The code of conduct that we talked already, the code of conduct as the tool to disseminate, to promote implementation, the tool to promote awareness on the principles, on the policies, on the objectives, on the specifics of the social responsibility management system. And the final one, something which is also very unique from SR10, which is the requirement to communicate and engage with stakeholders and report to stakeholders. It's mentioned on A5, which is a non-mandatory informative annex, but that's just the guidance. It's really required on 6.2 when the company is identifying and evaluating social responsibility issues, is required for the company to engage with stakeholders, to identify their needs and expectations, and then to communicate back to them on what was the evaluation the company, the organization made about those issues, and if they are considered relevant and what they are doing about it. So these are very specific requirements for the management system that go beyond ISO standards, that go beyond some of the other standards applicable to social responsibility. And the main changes. Let me focus now to finalize my presentation on the main changes. As Mario said, for a 10-year-old specification, for sure, we needed to update normative references to include new standards, for instance, related to environment, new standards related to occupational health and safety, new standards related to governance, references to social responsibility and sustainability areas, and to include an alignment and a link to non-financial reporting standards as well. The terms of definitions was also revised to update some terms of definitions, which are regularly updated also in ISO, for instance, and other scheme owners, but also to include definitions of impact materiality, include definition of climate change, a very comprehensive definition of climate change that the social compliance tag that Mario referred, which is the function responsible to review and the standard, demanded to be included under identifying those hazards which would be most likely identified regarding climate change, to revise definitions of organization, as basic as it may seem, or about sustainability. And then the revision of international reference documents, which is a non-exhaustive, but a big list of international documents that may be of help of the organization regarding identification of social responsibility aspects and issues. And finally, as already said by Mario also, updating the correspondence of SR10 with ISO 26000 and a new correspondence matrix between SR10 and the UN SDGs. Another generic aspect was adding examples and guidance. SR10 is a guidance and requirement standard. There are many ISO requirements like this and other specifications like this. SR10 is a specification including guidance as well as requirements. And on the guidance side, on the requirement side, I'll talk a little bit more. But on the guidance side, we also made a big effort to include more examples to facilitate the implementation of the system by the organizations. For example, we included more examples on how should the organization look into the context. We included information on where the organization can find data and information to identify and evaluate issues. What are the sources of information for the identification and evaluation of issues? And we included a note on a precautionary approach, which I find very, very important. It's a note, it's a guidance that says that for a specific social responsibility aspect or issue, even if it's considered relevant by a stakeholder or by the law, for instance, even if there's no scientific proof, even if there's a lot of uncertainty, that doesn't mean that the organization can exclude themselves from addressing that relevant aspect and taking applicable actions and finding applicable objectives. So the lack of scientific certainty is not a justification for the organization to discard a relevant aspect, notably those aspects which are identified by the law or identified by the stakeholders themselves. Regarding the operational part, regarding still regarding management system, we already talked about social responsibility obligations. We already talked about Griffiths mechanism. We already talked about the inclusions of climate change. The other big new thing was the planning of changes. So we included a clause to assist and to require organizations to follow when they determine the need for a change in the social responsibility issue, in the social responsibility system. So that those changes are carried out in a planned manner. Now, regarding the operation and the stakeholders, we included several requirements regarding the employee, the stakeholder employee, in order to promote a better alignment, not just with ISO 26000, which was there from the beginning, but more with the past 24000. For instance, regarding discrimination, we included more examples of what can be considered as a discriminative posture or conduct, and we also included a reference to mechanisms that are relevant to support effective diversity and inclusion. Regarding the right for privacy, still in relation with employees, we already had that the requirement that the organization needs to secure confidentiality. What we included was that the organization has to secure and protect employees' personal data, protection of personal data in line with the most updated privacy and data privacy and personal data protection regulations and criteria. Regarding forced labor and child labor, just to clarify the need for a special attention, not for forced labor and child labor, not only on direct suppliers, it was there from the beginning, but also regarding subcontractors and labor providers. And also a requirement related to the identification, evaluation, and action on modern slavery risks. This is quite important and quite in line with the most updated and state-of-the-art requirements and criteria on this matter. Regarding health and safety, we clarify the requirements applicable under fire safety, notably those required to infrastructure and equipment, and also the need for the requirements to be applied for worker accommodations and for the testing and inspection of the infrastructure and equipment and the conduction of emergency plans when necessary. Regarding employee dignity, we clarify that actions against human dignity can include mental or physical coercion or abuse of any kind, apart from the sexual harassment, workplace violence, or moral harassment that was already there in the previous version of SR10. Regarding consumers, clients, and suppliers, the change seems it's just one word included, but it seems simple, but it's actually includes a level of complexity and completeness. We included the need for sustainability to be addressed as a criteria for goods and services that are provided by the organization, and also inclusion of sustainability among the criteria for selecting suppliers. Sustainability to be considered within procurement activities. Looks simple, it's just one word, but it has a lot of content inside of it. Regarding involvement with public organizations and regulators, we just clarify what improper interference looks like, what improper interference with this or political involvement could look like. Improper lobbying, improper political contribution, or improper political involvement. Obviously, there are legal ways of doing this. Obviously, there are fair and accepted ways of doing this. What we are considering this is that organization will refrain from any improper way of doing this, and that was clarified. And finally, the climate change impact that organization may have, it's also included. So this is mostly it. Okay, I think I will end, the same way that Mario started, by considering that much more than an updated specification for social responsibility management system, SR10 is the adequate corporate reply to the need to address sustainable development by organizations. And I hope I gave you that sense of that feeling. I hope that I gave you that image, and I hope it is now better understood what we say by a unique specification. Tatiana and Christina, they are going to address the how. They're going to address the certification scheme, how it's going to implement, what is the impact for new and upcoming and existing certified clients. Allow me to present briefly Tatiana and Christina. Tatiana Gross-Klauser, she's the Business Development Manager at IQNet, here at the IQNet head office. He's also the IQNet Brand Manager for Social Responsibility Management Systems and Auditing. A brand manager is the person, is our expert, is our main expert in these specific areas. She coordinates the work of various partner panels and technical advisory groups, including the ESG partner panel, that social compliance partner panel, and IT partner panel, amongst others. She has an extensive involvement in social responsibility activities, including roles as an auditor, technical reviewer, trainer, and global technical and certification manager for IQNet Limited for over 12 years, and before in IQNet members in the same roles. Currently, she advises the executive committee of IQNet Limited, and she was also an APSCA certified social compliance auditor. Christina Studer-Baniai is the technical and operational manager of IQNet Limited. She is the IQNet Limited product manager for SR10 and for FSSE 24000. She basically coordinates the activity for SR10. This includes monitoring processes, providing technical support, addressing any issues that arise, and ensuring effective communication between involved parties to guarantee deadlines objectives are met and that the certification process are effective. With over 20 years of experience as an auditor across multiple management systems, as an assessor, technical reviewer, and a manager for two important certification bodies and IQNet members in Romania and France, she has developed strong expertise in these fields, and she was a recent, very important adding to the team of IQNet head office and the IQNet Limited head office. So thank you, Tatiana. Thank you, Christina. Let's hear about the how.
Thank you so much, Pedro. In this last presentation of our webinar today, we aim to introduce you the how, as Pedro mentioned, namely the arrangements to ensure a smooth and effective transition from SR10 2015 to SR10 version 2024, and some relevant aspects as particularly applicable to organizations seeking certification, certified organizations to SR10, certification body auditors. Towards the end, we will quickly touch on the resources available and also the role of IQNet Limited to support the SR10 scheme and the transition process. Starting with the generic approach, according to the common practice in our industry, when standards are being revised, there is a certain transition period, and IQNet has adopted the same practice, setting out a 3 years time to adjust to the newest version of SR10. Considering that the specification has been released in October 2024, this means that the transition timeline runs until October 2027. In this period, the two versions will coexist in a certain degree, 2015 and 2024. IQNet has established a transition policy where clear milestones are provided to ensure effective progress for all parties involved in the process. The completion period of the transition is considered 31st of October 2027. This is considered a reasonable time, so by this date, applicant organizations, certified organizations, auditors, and certification bodies have completed their journey and adapted to the 2024 version of the standard and of the scheme requirements, meaning that as of 1st of November 2027, SR10 2024 will remain the sole reference for this scheme and for the certification. I will give the floor now to Christina to present you the baseline in terms of timelines, requirements, and recommendations.
Tatiana. As Tatiana mentioned our expectations, and we start with the ones for the applicants. In here we have more time, that means certification audits according to the new version of the standard can be offered as early as March 1st, 2025 in order for the certification body to adapt to the new requirements. But starting from 31st of October 2025, all initial certification will be made accordingly to the 2024 version of SR10. If the client has already implemented the previous version of SR10, they still have until 31st of October 2025 to certify and transition to the 2024 version of the scheme. For organizations that are still in process of implementation or are now seeking to become certified after 31st of October 2025, the certification request is only applicable under the new version of SR10. The next slide, please. Thank you. Regarding the certified organization, in here, next slide, please. In here, we have more time limits. 31st of October is the first one. If the organization is due to renewal after this date, we strongly recommend that the audit is made by the new version 2024. This is in line with what I said before. That's for the new clients starting from the 31st of October 2025. All the initial certification will be done according to the new version, and it's strongly recommended that the renewals after these dates are also done on the new version. Nevertheless, by 31st of October 2027, all the certified organization must complete the transition. This is the maximum time limit. And now let's talk about how the transition can be confirmed either during a surveillance audit or a renewal, as we just said. In case of the transition during a surveillance, an increase of audit time will be expected, a minimum of half a day. For the audit team to have time to review the new requirements. If the transition cannot be completed during a regular audit activity, surveillance or renewal audits, in order to keep the certificate valid, the transition must be confirmed during a special audit, which is an additional audit to the audit program. So in this case, please take in consideration that is a separate activity and more time will be added, minimum 1 day for that. Bottom line, after 31st of October 2027, which is the end of the transition time, the certificates are on the new version or being withdrawn. Here are some specific requirements and recommendations. It is important for the organization to plan and to complete the transition at least 3 months before the time limit to avoid the period without a valid certificate. The reason behind this recommendation is that everyone needs time. For example, in case of non-conformity raised by the audit team, the organization needs time to solve them. The certification body needs time to receive the report from the audit team, to process the report, to make the decision. So basically, all parties involved needs time. SR10 brings like novelty. What SR10 brings like novelty should be understood and implemented on all levels of the organization. So by the time the transition audit is planned, these internal activities must be achieved. Also, together with those, a complete internal audit and management review of the new version of SR10 must be conducted before the transition audit. The transition audit will include the new requirements, but will not be focused just on those, and also on the ones that remain not changed. Once the transition audit will include the new, once the transition audit is successfully conducted with the positive recommendations for certification from the certification body, will be issued SR10 2024 certificates from the CB together with the IQNet certificate. The certificate will have the same validity as the previous one in the case of the transition was performed in a surveillance or a special audit, but in case of a renewal, the certificate will have 3 years validity. we have expectations regarding the certification bodies. Here it's stated that the certification body needs time to adjust to the new requirements internal, so the new certificates can be provided starting from 1st of March. So until 1st of March, no SR10 2024 certificates can be provided by any certification bodies. The certification bodies have shorter time to adjust to the new requirements. This means that the CB must internally take the necessary steps to incorporate both the SR10 2024 version and the updated scheme requirements. As you know, the scheme requirements have also been revised along with the specification. The certification body must incorporate the changes in all management system and scheme related documentation. The changes need to be communicated in the organization. They need to train the relevant personnel, auditors, decision makers, and other personnel involved in the scheme delivery. And very important also is to complete an internal audit and a management review to confirm the adequate implementation of the new requirements of SR10 2024 scheme. In terms of client, the CB must notify them on the transition arrangements, also plan the transition audit in order for all to be achieved in the time limit, make the transition decision based on the results of the transition audits. They need to regularly report to us about the transition completed. Also, they must attend the official SR10 2024 conversion training with a minimum with one qualified person. More details we will offer in the next slides. To make the story short, if the CB is ready, can start the certification process for the 2024 version of SR10 from March 1st, 2025, but it's mandatory to finish the internal implementation and to be ready to perform audits in conformity with 2024 version until 31st of October 2025. Also very important, by 31st of October 2027, the CBs needs to finish the transition process for their own clients, which means by this date, all valid certificates are according to 2024 version, and SR10 2015 version certificates are withdrawn. Last but not least, we move to requirements for the auditors. In here, we have just one milestone before involvement in any SR10 2024 audits. For auditors which are already qualified to SR10, a conversion training of minimum 8 hours to the new version is needed. This training is either the one provided by IQNet. We will organize a training between 25th and 26th of February 2025, or an internal conversion training by the certification body. But in this case, the training must be delivered by a recognized trainer who already has attended the conversion training. For the auditors seeking qualification, the requirements did not change. Lead auditor training SR10 for minimum 24 hours, but under the version of 2024. This is very important. Again, are two possibilities. One is to participate to the official training. The next one will be organized by IQNet between 25th and 28th of February 2025, or attending to an internal training organized by the certification body, but with the same condition as I mentioned before. Once the conversion training is complete, the evidence must be submitted to IQNet in order to confirm the qualification for the newest version of SR10. Resources are made available, but for those I will let Tatiana speak about it. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Christina. To support the transition process, various resources are being made available and will continue to be supplemented and enriched. For the general public, SR10 specification is publicly available for download on IQNet Limited website. Currently, it is in English, but please stay tuned because other languages will become available as well. The 2015 version will also remain publicly available in the same area during the transition period. In addition, information regarding the revision objectives, changes as compared to the previous version, and transition requirements, as we discussed during this webinar, are publicly available as well. Auditors can gain access to comprehensive information through the conversion and auditor courses. As Christina mentioned, these activities have been updated with the content has been updated to the new version. This will be complemented by additional instructions and guidance provided by the SR10 license certification bodies. Clients can resort to the same publicly available information, which is complemented by other certification rules, information, and awareness content made available by SR10 certification bodies. SR10 license certification bodies have access to all scheme-related information in our specific secured IQ network platform. So if you are joining this webinar and you are the program manager for the scheme, you are surely familiar with this area. Such information includes the contractual requirements for service delivery, the scheme requirements. As we mentioned also throughout this webinar, the scheme requirements reflected in SR10 rulebook, our document BD 506, has been updated, and the incorporation of such requirements is an integrating part of the transition process. The specific changes will be covered more in depth during the conversion and auditor trainings as applicable for auditors and other personnel involved in the certification, and also other specific sessions with program managers. Also in this area, other instructions regarding the use of the SR10 recognized mark, instructions regarding the translation of the specification, and answer to the frequently asked questions are posted and regularly updated. And finally, a quick reference to IQNet Limited and its role with the SR10 scheme and the transition process. IQNet Limited is a conformity assessment body operating for 20 years already, and it's a daughter company of IQNet Association, so it's owned by IQNet Association. Its scope is to provide services in the field of management systems and product certification in two specific directions: audit and certification services in the field of sustainability, supported by a network of authorized representatives, and also relevant for this discussion now is managing the licensing and monitoring process of SR10 certification bodies involved with the delivery of the scheme which is owned by IQNet Association. Also, the same applies for other schemes developed by IQNet Association. Both representatives and licensed partners are members of IQNet Association. IQNet Association has formally mandated IQNet Limited with the oversight of the SR10 scheme implementation and competence management. More specifically, IQNet Association is the owner of SR10 specification and the owner of SR10 scheme. As Mario mentioned also in the beginning, the scheme is being curated under the responsibility of the Social Compliance Technical Advisory Group, which has the overall expertise and authority within the development and update of the specification of the scheme, the issue of common interpretation and answers to frequently asked questions, the knowledge management, and they also have a particular responsibility with the technical recommendation whenever a license is granted to a certification body to deliver the services. On the other side, we have IQNet Limited, daughter of IQNet Association, daughter company, which is responsible for the oversight of the scheme implementation, licensing and monitoring of the SR10 certification bodies, recognition of the SR10 auditors and SR10 certificates, maintaining the updated register of recognized certifications, and in this case, relevant for this case, establishment and oversighting the transition progress. Then we have the SR10 licensed partners. These are members of IQNet Association signing the license agreement for the SR10 scheme implementation and delivery and the SR10 certificate issuance. The audit activities are done by SR10 auditors, which are trained and qualified by the SR10 certification bodies, licensed partners, but also recognized by IQNet Limited. Our common focus is to provide and to promote responsible, ethical, and sustainable practices within SR10 applicants and certified clients, which are organizations applying and successfully completing the SR10 audit and certification process, implementing within their own structure a social responsibility management system, and obtaining the SR10 certificate of compliance. This depicts, let's call it, the infrastructure of SR10 certification. With this, we end our presentation, and we would like to thank you for your attention while we are ready to take up your questions.